After 6 million years of boredom, the evolutionary ascent of our species from the last common ancestor with the chimpanzee, something extraordinary happened to us less than 100,000 years ago, which, by the way, is long after we'd become anatomically modern. It was a kind of emergence into consciousness less than 100,000 years ago, really less than 40,000 years ago, when we became fully symbolic creatures. And this great change has been defined as the single most important step forward in the evolution of human behavior, is intimately associated with the emergence of the great and transcendent rock and cave art all around the world. And over the last 30 years, researchers led by Professor David Lewis Williams at the University of Witwatersrand
science delusion is the belief that science already understands the nature of reality in principle, leaving only the details to be filled in. This is a very widespread belief in our society. It's the kind of belief system of people who say, I don't believe in God, I believe in science. It's a belief system which has now been spread to the entire world. But there's a conflict in the heart of science between science as a method of inquiry based on reason, evidence, hypothesis, and collective investigation, and science as a belief system or a worldview. And unfortunately, the worldview aspect of science has come to inhibit and constrict the free inquiry, which is the very lifeblood of the scientific endeavour. Since the late 19th century, science has been conducted under the aspect of a belief system or worldview, which is essentially that of materialism, philosophical materialism. And
all right, just adjust that a minute. There we are. Oh, actually, I'm just going to open the curtains. I need more light. Hold on, Hapanmo TV viewers, won't be a sec. So I was just being illegal there. I was just watching something that I shouldn't really be watching, because what you've just seen is 2 lectures by something called TEDx Whitechapel, which is a conference, which is a spin-off from the TED Talks. TED is actually it's a conference host organisation, technology, entertainment and design, and it goes under the slogan "Ideas worth spreading." And what happened was they invited those 2 men I've just been watching, Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake, to address their conference. They give you a little short slot, just 20 minutes. That's normal for TED. And after the conference had taken place, the videos of the speeches were uploaded to the TEDx YouTube channel so that people could watch them, and they were promptly taken down. Now, I've written an article about this, a very sort of like belligerent and angry article, but I don't normally do mirrors on Hapanmo TV of things I've written about on the Hapanmo blog. I usually let you just go and watch it on the Hapanmo blog, but I've decided this time to do another video, to do a Hapanmo TV video about the same subject, because I think it's so important. Basically, you may have heard this before, but Kimbo99 has said an awful lot about this, but a few days after these videos were uploaded to the TEDx YouTube channel, they were removed. Yes, they were. What happened was, I'll just tell you what happened here. Where is it? Right, yeah, what happened, they were removed. Now, what happened is a few days later they were uploaded to a new channel called TEDx Open for Discussion. Right, or something like that. Here we go. Here's what the TEDx website actually says about this. Right. After due diligence, including a survey of published scientific research and recommendations from our science board and our community, we have decided that Graham Hancock's and Rupert Sheldrake's talks from TEDx Whitechapel should be removed from distribution on the TEDx YouTube channel. We are not censoring the talks, instead we're placing them here where they can be framed to highlight both their provocative ideas and the factual problems with their arguments. Now they say here, all talks on the TEDx Talks channel represent the opinions of the speaker, not of TED or TEDx, but we feel a responsibility not to provide a platform for talks which appear to have crossed the line into pseudoscience. The thing about it is, they weren't even, according to Graham Hancock, they weren't even going to re-upload them to this new channel. This new channel, which gets a fraction of the views of the mainstream TEDx channel, until these accusations of censorship began. Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake, in case I should introduce them briefly, are two innovative researchers who, sort of spiritual researchers and open-minded scientific researchers. What I think has happened here when they're talking about their community is basically the skeptic equivalent of disgusted Tunbridge Wells have bombarded them with letters of complaint, and these can get very acidic and very, very, very malicious. I know that from experience. And basically what's happened is they've caved in. They've caved in and they decided to remove them, which is a shame. I always had a lot of respect for TED because they had Jill Bolte-Taylor on, the lady who had the stroke in the left hemisphere of her brain, and she had a very, very profound experience, a sort of profound spiritual experience as a result of having this stroke. But it gets worse. It gets worse. Right, here we go. Listen to this, right? This is from this website, Why Evolution is True. Okay, Why Evolution is True. There we are. Can you see that? Sorry, there's a lot of reflection from the window. Well, TED has come down a long way. Since it once presented a forum for quirky, advanced and entertaining thinkers, in an effort to keep ahead of the intellectual tide, they started incorporating substandard speakers, including woo-meisters, who have spawned a TEDx local version of TED Talks. Right. Oh, it gets really, really bad here. Those two reached their nadir with the TEDx talk at Whitechapel by Rupert Sheldrake, who gives Deepak Chopra a run for the title of world's biggest woo-meister. And it goes on, basically, it's really, really quite a dreadful talk, anti-materialism, narrow dogmatism of scientists, a view that inanimate things have a consciousness. And it rants on about a quasi-Jungian view. Oh, it's... It basically tackles one thing factually, which is a problem with the light speed. You know, he says that. But this website, Why Evolution is True, is basically just a load of rhetoric. And what we can say, I've been having a look through the skeptic kind of the kind of skeptic. Here we go. Let me just zoom in on that. I don't know how much you can see with the curtains open on the window. There we are. This is the James Randi Educational Foundation Forum. We have here people saying this is where all the skeptics get together and have a little conflab about things. I'm sad to say that on the whole, the members of this forum are very much on the side of banning Sheldrake and Hancock. And it says here, it's a good call to maintain a certain standard by removing videos that maintain grossly misleading claims. I know several people who are not particularly scientifically literate who take a lot of what they see on TED as gospel. And it goes on to other things like there's a couple of people. The TED conferences has reached lower lows in the past. If TEDx is a legitimate science conference, why do they invite him in the first place? They should have known the outcome. So that is the basic view of Skeptic Central. JREF, as I said, JREF Forum is one of the biggest skeptic websites around. Now, as you probably gathered by now, I'm very much against the banning of Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake from the TEDx conferences. These are conferences that are supposed to be allow people to come and have a say, and then the audience can make their own mind up, whether the audience is in the room at the conference or whether they're watching it on YouTube. Why? The reasons why they would want to ban it, I can't think of it. I think maybe the real reason is they're scared that Hancock and Sheldrake are right, and they don't want people getting this information. That's why. That seems to be the motivation for most censorship, in my experience. I mean, it really is a. This is a really. It is a disgrace. It really is a disgrace. I wrote an article about this, where I basically have a go at them. You see, they've had lots of science speakers. They have skeptic speakers, people like Michael Shermer, Susan Blackmore, Richard Dawkins have all done speeches at TED. What they've done is they agreed to host Hancock and Sheldrake, so they agreed to allow them to have their say. And after agreeing to this, they then decide to censor them. It is censorship. I mean, how dare they, fucking Nazis? You know, this is what we're looking at here. We're looking at a world where information is controlled for the masses, that the masses received. It may not be a governmental organisation doing it, all right, but it's a media organisation doing it. You know, and I think basically what happened was the skeptics put a lot of pressure on them. It sounds like when they talk about advice from their community, that's what they mean. And I mean, the reviews, I mean, I remember when Sheldrake's book came out. Sheldrake wrote a book, and the editor of Science magazine said it was a candidate for burning. It was they wanted to burn it. I mean, the burning of books is the cipher of barbarism. It's what the Nazis did, what the Soviets did, what all oppressive regimes do. They burn books, they censor them. They had a banned list of artistic and humanities, creations of art and humanities, which are not allowed. Not to mention, you know, science, people, innovative new political, scientific, sociological ideas. These things are banned. Well, the skeptics are proving themselves just as bad. And it makes a bit of a joke, you know, when they talk about, they're the ones who go on about free speech. They criticise religion, quite rightly, for its often its lack of commitment to free speech. Yeah, they're just as bad. I think we the viewing public have to have the right to see all the information. I can decide what is or is not pseudoscience. Thank you very much, TEDx. Don't you dare put up a video for me to watch and then take it down saying I can't see it. I demand, I insist that you replace Graham Hancock's video, and also you replace Rupert Sheldrake's video back on the main TEDx website whence they came, where you originally uploaded them. And what's sad about this is, right, sorry, I'm rambling a bit today. I haven't scripted this at all. This is completely ad lib. What I think annoys me the most is, you know, if they took down Susan Blackmore's lecture or Richard Dawkins' lecture saying we don't want people to see this, right, I'd be one of the first people to leap to those speakers' defence. I'd be one of the first people to say, no, put them up there, let's see them. I'm not scared of views which contradict my ideas. I mean, I'm not a skeptic, as you know. I'm a supporter of Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake. I think I've listened to what they say. I think they're telling the truth. But I'm not scared of alternative views. I'm not scared of the people, including myself, getting alternative views. And I look at those alternative views. I go to skeptic events. In fact, I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So basically, TEDx, you can't actually see those videos on their original location if you first, because they were posted all over Facebook when they were first put up by TEDx. They're not at those locations anymore. Well, they are. They're on the TED Discussions YouTube channel. Excuse me, I've still got a bit of a cough lingering. And luckily, several YouTube users have mirrored them. This one here, who of course immediately subscribed to, Revolution Love Evolve, who I'm very, very pleased has mirrored the Rupert Sheldrake talk. And this person here has mirrored the War on Consciousness by Graham Hancock talk. And he's got a very, very memorable username there, and no fucking names left. So subscribe to those channels and watch the videos there, because these two users deserve my congratulations for for doing that. Now, this brings us on to the subject in general of skeptocracy. Now, I think this scandal over Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake is just the latest in a long line of, I think, infringements of our civil rights that have been carried out by skeptics and the skeptic movement. I've said before, you know, skeptics say they're keen on, they believe in science and things like that. They say a skeptic is one who follows evidence and logic and reason before making a conclusion, and is into science and things like that. Right? This is the skeptic's description of the self. That's actually not a description; it's a slogan. To be a skeptic is an ideology. I mean, Kimbo99, Steve from Sydney, he talks a lot about this, and I do recommend his channel. I've interviewed him on Apanmo Radio. I'll put a link in the description box. It is an ideological position to be a skeptic. You know, there are plenty of skeptics who know nothing about science and not interested in science, and they just say, there ain't no such things as ghosts and UFOs, there ain't no such things as conspiracies, it's all in your head, it's all an illusion, innit? Right? That person is still a skeptic. Conversely, someone like Rupert Sheldrake is a trained and experienced scientist. Yet he is a non-skeptic, he is a woo-meister, to quote that prat who wrote that article. As you see, to be a skeptic is to... I define a skeptic with a K. As a skeptic with a C is someone who believes in rationality and logic and evidence. I consider myself that. I aspire to that anyway. A skeptic with a K is someone who holds certain views about certain ideas. That is, about that paranormal matters, conspiratorial matters, spiritual matters are not true. That upholds the materialistic view of the world. And that's basically what a skeptic with a K is. Now, as I said, this is actually the latest and most recent infringement of our civil rights carried out by the Skeptic Movement. There was another and much more serious, actually, infringement of our civil rights a few months ago. There's been several that I've actually written about, like the way that some people have been persecuted for holding Christian beliefs in the workplace. That's a big subject, but I've written about that. I haven't got time to go into that now, but there was an incident where, now, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Steiner schools. Right? Rudolf Steiner was a German philosopher. I've written an article about this too. I'll just try and find it. Here we are. It's this article on the Panmo Voice. Skeptocrats attack Steiner schools. Now, Rudolf Steiner was a philosopher from the... He lived in the sort of 19th and early 20th century in Germany. I mean, it's a big subject about what Rudolf Steiner believed and all his ideas. But basically, his ideas were spiritual, non-conformist ideas. Belief in the spiritual idea of... I've got a description here. There we go. I write basically about... He covered all sorts of ideas, from child rearing to medicine to technology to farming, cooking, complex philosophies. It takes a lot of study to understand them, but they're essentially non-conformist and spiritual ideas. Now, what the British Humanist Association and other people have been doing is there are a number of Steiner schools around the country. There are 34 Steiner schools, including one at the Findhorn community where I went and spent a week at. I didn't get on there. I mean, if you watch my video New Age, if you link in the description box, you'll see that I didn't get on that well there. But I think they're pretty harmless people, although Slaxer would disagree with me. I think they're... but there's a Steiner school there. Now, I think the issue, what they used was, I mean, they didn't really discuss his ideas in detail very much, but they concentrated on the fact that Steiner did have racial opinions about different people, different coloured people, black people, white people, etc. Now, the thing about it you've got to realise is, like, I think in the time Steiner was writing, 100 years or so ago, everybody was a racist. Winston Churchill was a racist. Charles Darwin was a racist. I mean, it's you know, if someone who wasn't a racist was actually quite rare. I think what's happened is in those times, the thing is, people in Europe in those days didn't actually know any black people. The only black people around were servants. What's happened in more recent ages is we've actually, in most countries in Europe, we've actually had contact with black and brown and people of all colours. And we've actually found that they are pretty much the same as the rest of us. And that has changed a lot of our views. It's changed the views of most white Europeans. Of course, there's a few sort of like fringe extremists like the BNP and people like that, right? But I think most people now understand that people of different colours, you know, are not people who are not white are not inferior at all. They're the same as the rest of us. They just develop differently, or in different rates, because they've come from a different part of the world. Now, if Steiner lived today, he might have understood that. Now, what happened was last night I went to a Oxford Skeptics in the pub meeting. Yes, I did, and I do this regularly. I'm afraid it's a little vice of mine. I have to always look at both sides of the story. It's extremely annoying. But there was a guy called Andy Lewis who was doing a talk about Steiner schools, and to give him his due, I mean, it was fairly sort of like professional and non-partisan, you know. But he didn't actually sort of like say we need to ban them, you know, because what's happened is the British Humanist Association has been trying to stop the government from funding Steiner schools. As I said, there are 34 Steiner schools. 2 of them are state funded. They're free schools like every other, and most of the others are applying for state funding. And apparently they had to go through the Freedom of Information Act to get this request. But anyway, I went to this meeting, and I actually went in disguise. I was wearing this T-shirt, you see. See there, TAM, The Amazing Meeting 2010. This is actually a conference hosted by James Randi in London, which I went along to. This is the T-shirt. This was a kind of disguise, because I didn't want people to know that I was sort of like the enemy within. Although, to be honest, I think a lot of them already know who I am. And they don't mind me being there, because I'm well behaved. I'm always polite and nice to people. You know, I don't cause any trouble. So I don't think they would have minded anyway. But I thought I'd wear the disguise just in case. You know. Anyway, Andy Lewis was saying, basically, he was talking about how Steiner believed that the white Aryan race must be preserved, because in terms of reincarnation, white people, especially the Aryan blonde, blue-eyed people, blonde, blue-eyed people, you know, what the Nazis called the master race, were sort of more karmically evolved than black people and other races. And it's true, Steiner did actually say this, but as I said before, I think if Steiner had been alive today, he may have realised the error of his ways. It's true that Steiner actually died. He died very suddenly, quite prematurely, when his work was half complete. Maybe if he'd lived a bit longer, he'd have changed his mind on that. As I'm sure everyone who goes to a Steiner school today will understand very well that Steiner was wrong on the issues of race. Now, what Andy Lewis does is he provides a lot of anecdotes. Like, for instance, he talks about he talks Steiner school survivors. He talked about how there was a young black girl in the class and the teacher called her a nigger and stuff like this, and how another one was ruined and said it's all a big cult and stuff like that. Now, these are anecdotes, all right? There's no evidence that these events actually took place. However, there are plenty of other people there. And there was even a man in the audience who said he went to a Steiner school, a German guy, put his hand up in the audience at the event last night, and he said, I went to a Steiner school, I got a perfectly good education, and he's now a student at the university here at Oxford. So he's studying here at Oxford University. Well, obviously he must have done fairly well. He must have done fairly well at school to have got into Oxford. They don't just let anyone in, you know. Now, I've got a friend of mine called Terry Boardman. I want to get in touch with him, actually, because I'm interested to hear what his take is on this. Because he spoke at Ian R. Crane's conferences on the Alternative View conferences. And he's an expert on Rudolf Steiner, and he's a big supporter of him. And he says that, Rudolf Steiner is a great spiritual philosopher. And all these accusations about him being, holding children back from getting a proper education, racism, all these other things, he says that's all false. And if that's false, then it could be that the British Humanist Association is demonising the Steiner schools in order to stop their state funding. Now you might, the skeptics are saying things like, "Well, I don't want my money paying for this kind of nonsense." Well, I'm afraid this is what democracy is. This is what freedom is, right? If skeptics were the only people in the world who paid taxes, I'd agree with them, right? But unfortunately, we woo-woos, we nutcases who believe in all this flim-flam superstition, we pay taxes too, Now, I don't know if there's any skeptic schools around, but if someone wanted to set up a skeptic school, they'd expect me to pay for it out of my tax money. And I'd be happy to do that. That's life, right? You can't, when it comes to free speech, you can't just say, well, I'll have free speech for my fellow skeptics, but not for anyone who's not a skeptic. And I mean, another answer that the BHA will give is, look, we don't want to ban Steiner schools. We're quite happy for them to keep on open, funded privately. We just don't want them to be paid from the state. Well, they know damn well, crafty bastards, that if you took away state funding from Steiner schools, 90% of the parents who now send their children there wouldn't be able to afford it. I mean, we've seen this before. I wrote an article before about how they're trying to, in some parts of the world, in some cities, they're trying to regulate, they call it regulation, they're trying to ban psychics and mediums and spiritualist churches. But they're not saying we want to ban them, we're going to say we want to regulate them. We want more consumer protection. And Richard Wiseman is one of these people behind it. All right, there's a link, I'll put links in the description box to all these things. So, what I say is this needs to be challenged. This is a woo-woo's call to arms. We need to stand up against this imposition of the skeptocracy telling us what to do, what to say, what to think. Because before you know it, we woo-woos are going to have to walk down the street with an armband on with a W on it. They may even put us in camps. You may think I'm exaggerating. Oh, there's no skeptic has ever said that. No, but all the rhetoric is there which leads to this situation with concentration camps. They're already advocating censorship. They're advocating the burning of books. They're advocating they have indeed attempted to silence Graham Hancock and Rupert Sheldrake. All right, so I think we need to be on our guard, and I think any skeptic out there, because I know not all skeptics agree with this. I know skeptics who are libertarians. Michael Shermer would be on my side in this. Those skeptics who believe in free speech. All right, I ask you to join in with us. Don't discredit yourself and the skeptic movement by sort of like flags of convenience with these skeptic Nazis, these skeptocrats, skeptopaths. I don't apologise for using words like that. I almost called Richard Wiseman that once. I called him a skeptocrat, but I was thinking of something much stronger. Oh. So sorry, that's the end now. I haven't really scripted this. This is rambling. It's not really structured. Thanks for watching. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Oh, all the details, like all the proper sort of like thought out details, are in the description box in the links. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.